Thank you very much for Dr. Alon Ben Meir for accepting the interview for Presenza. You are a retired professor of international relations and Middle East studies, notably in NYU Center of Global Affairs, where we taught courses on international negotiation and conflict resolution. So you're an expert on the Middle East, and that's really why we wanted to talk to you today. And he has been directly involved in bilateral negotiation between Israel and its neighbor for over 2 decades. So often we accuse of being over-optimistic, and I really wanted to touch on this point. And in this, notably concerning the Arab-Israel conflict, you have been quoted that there is enough pessimism, pain, and disarray, and I do not choose to add my voices to the chorus of doom. I envision a Middle East with Arabs and Jews working and living together to achieve greatness, perhaps unknown in human experience. Together, they will usher a renaissance that will spread its light from sea to sea. And really, that's really something that touched me deeply, because I'm involved and I've been launching a campaign. It's called the David Campaigns, who have for promise to for a global call for nonviolence renewal in the Middle East, and making the point that the Middle East have giving so much to the world. Then now it's time to the world to give and support the process of the people who are trying to change the direction of what's happening into Israel and what's happening into Palestine and what's happening to Gaza, to change that direction of destruction, genocide, and abuse of power, and all its international non-regard to the law, and so on and so forth. So the inspiration comes from 2 places. One, it's I don't know if you know Sophie Bezis, who is a Tunisian-born historian, and at some point in an interview she mentioned then there is no international support to support the Israeli who are opposing to Netanyahu. And
sorry, come again. There's no opposition.
There is no support at the international level to help the people who are in opposition to Netanyahu. And at the same time, the humanists have been inspired by Silo's direction of modern humanism, linking nonviolence, personal development, and collective transformation. And with the one of the principles is do not oppose to a great force, retreat until it weakens, and then advance with resolution. And I thought then, because of this so-called board of peace, and before that with the some kind of peace agreement between Palestine and Israel, as bad as it is, I thought it was a changing an opportunity to be able to maybe move forward, to make proposition, and to work with the international community to really enforce the people who are doing the right things. So now I'm very happy to talk to you today, and I just really want to get your sense. First, it's how do you see this peace board proposed by Trump? What does it have anything to do with peace? Does it bring anything into the table? And maybe after that we can go more on what is the situation with Iran and what is the situation with the development of the process between Palestine and Gaza and Israel.
You know, I have been maintaining all along for years, maybe decades, that if the United States, who's been calling for a 2-state solution, just about every single administration, go back to 1948 for that matter, had the United States put its foot down and insisted going back, not just engaging in the narratives of two-state solution sound nice, but did not take any concrete action on the ground to persuade, to pressure, to coerce Israel to accept the fact that the Palestinians exist, will continue to exist, no matter how many Israel can kill, displace. The Palestinians are there. There are nearly 7 million of them in the West
Yeah,
Bank, Gaza, and in Israel proper, equal to the number of Jews living in Israel. This is just a fact of life, which means coexistence is not optional. It's there. The
it's
question
there.
is, do they want to kill each other another 78 years, or do they want to live in peace? That is the premise. So when I see Trump, creating this border peace, I must say, knowing and following what Trump has been doing first term and now first year of his second term, this is nothing but another one of those projects that he wants to sort of convey to the whole world that he is the one who can come up with the new ideas. He can come up with actually achieve peace. Like he keeps saying, he ended 8 wars. I don't know what wars were they, but he ended 8 wars. And now he was creating a border peace, basically to replace the United Nations, which he feels that it is no longer functioning as a institution, a global institution that maintain and keep peace. And so it is, in my view, it is baseless assumption. It is not going to work because when you look at the makeup, the way it is constructed, there are so many flaws within the whole idea that is going to be extremely difficult. In fact, it is a miracle if anything really comes out of this so-called board of peace. And we can talk about its shortcomings. But this is what it comes down to. If he wanted peace, he could have managed that first term. He could manage it today and say, enough is enough. The Palestinians exist. They're not going to go anywhere. Let's sit down and establish the principle. One more point, and I'll stop. Israel, Netanyahu government have never said, not once, agreed to a two-state solution. So if you want to have peace, you have to start with the premise that Israel, at a minimum, accept the principle of an independent Palestinian state, and then you can talk about the details, however long that might take. But Trump could he did not even manage to commit Israel to the basic principle. Do you agree that there should be a Palestinian state? So creating a border peace, in my view, means nothing unless there is such a commitment to begin with.
How do you? So that's the present situation. How do you see the card? If we were the magic ones, how do you see the card playing in the next years, 2 years, 3 years, for the dynamic? Because I mean, it's like here in the US, it's a lot of people now are really moving forward to pressure their government to change the direction. It was a protest in Jerusalem. I published an article just yesterday, and in Tel Aviv and many places. So I think you have and the international community also is very active to really find or put to the ground some kind of discussion, not even solution, but at least a discussion to stop the killing and the atrocity and the destruction of housing and so on and so forth.
I hope I understand the question. You see, since the ceasefire was established going to October 10 of 2025, Israel has not, the Netanyahu government has not stopped for a minute the continuing bombing. As a matter of fact, I can give you the numbers. More than 3,000 structures been destroyed level. Nearly 530 Palestinians were killed. Nearly 200 of them are children. And the destruction continues. Not one word Have we heard from the Trump administration telling Netanyahu, we have a ceasefire, this has to stop? I mean, many Israelis are enraged. Is there, how much more bloodshed do you need? Is there any point in time where the Israeli government, you know, insatiable, thirst for blood, when that's going to come? Is there an end to that? There seem to be no end to this. Basically, this government in Israel does not want to see a Palestinian state. They would like to expel, get rid of the Palestinian Gaza altogether. They are committing horrific crimes in the West Bank, specifically the settlers, pushing them out of their land day in and day out. Last year alone, more than 500 Palestinians were killed in the West Bank alone. So when you have that kind of militaristic government, not interested in peace, when you talk about the border peace, Netanyahu was the first one to object to it. But Trump put a lot of pressure on him, as you know, you have to accept what I'm trying to do. He reluctantly said, okay, but mark my word, he will do everything humanly possible to torpedo any effort that will bring the Israeli, to prevent the Israeli or the Palestinian from coming any closer to any kind of harmonious coexistence. It is not going to happen under Netanyahu, under his fascist government that exists today. So we're going to need, a revolutionary transformation of the Israeli society. And one word I want to add to this: I blame the Israeli public. The Israeli public have been demonstrating, for example, when they were attempting judicial reform, day in and day out for 6 months. Hundreds of thousands were pouring into the street every Saturday. Well, the judiciary, the reform start because of the Gaza war. But I'm asking today, in my just finished an article, where are the Israelis? Why aren't you going out to the street and demand an end to the slaughter of Palestinians? You're going to have to coexist with these people to the end of times. Why aren't you putting the public itself say enough is enough? What are you doing? So today, Israel's moral standing in the international community doesn't exist. Israel basically, like I said, it's committing moral bankruptcy. And it's going to take decades, in my view, before Israel can recover. And only if they agree to the establishment of an independent Palestinian state.
So you don't think like the one state solution is going to be something who's going to move forward?
Well, you have to look at what does it mean, one state solution.
Absolutely.
If it's going to be a democracy, well, there will be no Jewish state because the Palestinian will be a majority in no time. So if you have a free and fair election, it's going to be a Palestinian government ruling over the Israeli Jews. That is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So which means...
And you think
But Israel would like to have a so-called two-state solution under the current circumstances, meaning control the West Bank, control Gaza, deprive the Palestinian from having any vote whatsoever. And that is, for the Israeli perspective, this is the kind of two-state solution, subordinating the Palestinian to the end of time, basically under control, under occupation. But that is not going to happen either, because the Palestinian will simply not accept subordination for another 80 years. Something is going to give. This October 7 attack and Israeli retaliation, trust me, will not be the last one. As long as the Palestinians do not realize their national aspiration, this is going to continue for as far as the eye can see.
And how the negotiation between the Palestinian and the Israeli can work? I mean, the Palestinians are some kind of fragmented and against a complicated and very violent opposition coming from the Israelis. So how do you see that dynamic moving forward?
Unfortunately, the opposition parties today are not organized. Other than Lapid, the head of the Yesh Atid party, who said we need to talk about two-state solution, the opposition parties have not come up with a plan of action and say, we have to start with the idea of two-state solution, and let us establish a process of reconciliation, because you cannot tomorrow agree on a two-state solution and implement it. It just won't happen.
Absolutely.
Because you need to reconcile
Yeah.
the hatreds, the
Yeah.
hatred between the two sides, the animosity.
Yeah.
Well, each community has been poisoned against the other. So you need a process of reconciliation for a number of years, 4, 5, 6, 7, as long as there is at the end of the tunnel there is a light of a Palestinian state. The Palestinian will agree. In my conversation with the scholars of them, day in and day out, they will say to us this, they say to me this: if the Israel agree in principle, there will be a Palestinian state, we are willing to sit down and work toward that end and beginning normalization of relations between the two sides. With trade, exchange, sport, name it. Both people can go travel from one side to the other. Then you create that kind of trust that is needed. You mitigate the hatred between the two sides. So you need the process. But you have to have a commitment to begin with, because the process doesn't mean anything unless there's a commitment. What is the end goal here? And the United States, what I'm saying, can do today is said, you've got to commit yourself to an end goal. End goal should be a two states. Let us now work on a process. And that process, the what happened in Gaza, the ceasefire, build on that process. Yes, get a peacekeeping force. Get the Palestinian Authority to take over. Move the process forward as long as there is an end game.
But the story, I mean, because it's a very US story, the story between Israel and Palestine. If without the US, the discussion will not even, we will have not this discussion. The situation will have been negotiated long time ago without the support of the US. So uh, uh, how it's not just an Israeli story, because Netanyahu, it doesn't. I mean, Netanyahu was formed and educated in New York and in the US, so in some way, and that's why I propose to do some kind of gathering in May in DC, because I think the US has a big role to play on that dynamic in the Middle East. We can see with Iran now. It's how can we help the US to take consideration about the situation? How can we transform that dynamic and not be supporting the destruction?
You see, the problem in the United States is that one has to ask the question why the United States has been consistently supportive of Israel, no matter what Israel does.
And nobody and independently the political party could be either Democrat or Republican. They still have the same policy.
Yeah, but this is the question. You see, Israel, to a great extent, almost an American domestic problem.
Yeah.
What you have here, you have a major constituency, the evangelicals. It represents 60 million people. Both Democrats and Republicans need the support of this group. Of course, they are far more leaning toward the Republicans. But if you go against Israel, I heard many Republican leaders in the Senate and the House will tell you plainly, simply, we have a religious duty to support Israel no matter what Israel does. So you have that very powerful constituency here. So no president can actually unilaterally on his own say, forget it, I'm just going to do what I have to do to get. Albeit, is the only way you can get peace is if the United States put its foot down. So you have that constraint. You have that major constituency in the United States that oppose anything that undermine, in their eyes, the position of Israel. That's one thing. Then you have very powerful Jewish organization, AIPAC. Now, AIPAC has exert tremendous influence on the government here, on various senators. Today, for example, in the report, they have $950 million ready to support every candidate who support Israel. and oppose any candidate that does not support Israel. Openly, they are not hiding this. And they have been exercised that for years and years now. This is another problem you have. So the president is not totally exempt from that domestic pressure. But if you want peace, and you're not running again for another term of president in this particular case, well, why not really make peace and not merely claim I end 8 wars, which in fact did nothing of the sort?
I mean, you can support Israel. I mean, you can, at the long run, Israel has nothing to win to keep this war the way it goes like this. They are, I mean, it's complicated. The anti-Semitism is getting all over the world. I mean, it's going to be a very complicated story for Israel. So the argument of helping Israel right now will be to have a peace process working, reconciliation process working, having a Middle East process into in a dynamic where the antagonism to either existence of anybody stop, and recognizing the existence of Iran and the existence of Palestine and the existence of Israel and the existence of the people playing the role in the Middle East. So I'm not at the long run. I don't see how can it not be done. I don't understand the logic of that moment then we are faced. And I mean, I will say the same in the US. I don't see the US be able to keep going on the direction we are going right now.
No, and it's not going to lead anywhere. It just won't lead anywhere because you do not have in Israel itself. I mentioned to you the pressure, political pressure domestically here in the United States. But on the other side, in Israel, there is no, the public is itself. There isn't today a majority among the Israelis who say enough is enough. That is a problem. I just want to give you a startling two statistics. 90% of all Palestinians were born under occupation. 90%.
Yeah.
80% of all Israelis were born after 1967 when their occupation began. So for the Israelis, the occupation of these territories is normal. For 80% of them, they grew up with it.
Yeah.
For the Palestinian, 90% under occupation, they've had enough. So what you have now, the longer this continues, the question of when is going to be the next explosion. And mind you, I mean, 1 year before October 7, I wrote a major piece and I said, it is only a question of time when this is going to explode, which will make the intifada, like a second intifada, like a child's play. And people say to me, what the heck are you talking about? I said, I'm not a prophet, but I can tell, watch the ground, watch what's happening on the ground. It's a question of when it's going to explode. So Hamas's attack October 7 must not be taken out of context. Remember, 57 years of occupation, of oppression, of killing, of destruction, of usurpation of land. It has taken its toll. I'm not justifying by any means, by any stretch, what Hamas has done. That was atrocious, that was barbaric, that is unacceptable. But it is a mistake to take it out of context as well. So the time has come for the Israelis to wake up. So when you talk about anti-Semitism, Rose, why anti-Semitism is on the rise? Because what Israel has done to the Palestinians.
No. I mean, that I've no. This is not a doubt. My question is how do we move forward, and are we seeing like in the US? I mean, I don't think the opposition is that small. I think the opposition in Israel to Netanyahu it's big. The problem it doesn't have the structure to be able to apply. And it's the same here. It's very complicated for the opposition to be able to play any role because they don't play to normal games. The rule of the games have changed, and you know when you have a military police on the street locking on doors and terrifying population. How do you respond to this? How do we go moving forward into and we see what people are doing in Minneapolis. It's a big challenge. I mean, it's a very complicated situation, and I don't think we understand how the problem of the structure of the game. We always talk about the game, but the game, the structure of the game, it doesn't exist. So there is no more game.
Well, honestly, my view have always been, if you want to change the dynamics, what's happening here in the United States, you mentioned Minneapolis, ICE, and what they're doing, and you mentioned the situation in Israel. What it ultimately takes, in my view, is one thing: consistent, relentless public protest. It has to grow, has to be continuing day in and day out. That's the only thing that will move the needle. Even here in the United States, the protests that took place in Minneapolis and all over the country after the killing of Alex Pettis made a dent. Trump had to change some course, and you're going to see the pressure. ICE is not going to be acting the way it's been acting all along. That's going to change. Protest. That's what peaceful one. I'm not saying, and if that doesn't work, you have to go into civil disobedience. Doesn't work, go to strikes. It is the public.
But look, we have the World Cup.
The
We have the World Cup in United States, and I published an article on this story. No one is trying to talk with FIFA to say let's postpone the game. Just postpone of 1 year. Postpone the game. The US is not in condition of holding any World Cup with at that magnitude. And I'm pretty sure if you go to talk to people who are at FIFA, we could get that type of discussion. I'm almost convinced then we can take the discussion and having the story move in some ways. I mean, having the game postponed of 1 year, having moved somewhere else, having them. I mean, you can remove the peace prize from the FIFA peace prize from Trump. I mean, you have many way we can or boycott or ask to the television to not broadcast the games. I mean, you have a lot of leeway we can play, but we need to see where are the opportunities and be able to take them when they are when we are in moment of doing it. And I'm not sure why it's. I mean, some people are talking about boycotting the game with one way, but it doesn't give a lot of space for FIFA to respond in another way. And I think we need to be able to open the space so people can have another type of discussion and another level, and be able to use the power of other structure to be able to move that story.
Well, what is going to take really? First of all, you need a change of government here. A government more, perhaps the Democrats will be a little bit more open to pushing for a two-state solution. That's going to be necessary, a prerequisite. Without a democratic government here, and I'm not a Democrat or Republican, I'm just saying in terms of policy, they are more leaning now toward putting more pressure on Israel to change its direction, its position. In Israel, you need a different government as well. This government is a fascist government, Netanyahu government, and openly call for annihilating the Palestinians. Openly, some ministers call for that, which is this awful. So you need a new government there. But in addition to that, you've got to change the public narrative on both sides. That is, in Israel, they've been poisoning the Israelis, saying the Palestinian state poses existential danger to Israel, which is precisely the opposite. Israel will never be safe unless there is a Palestinian state. And the same thing here. They have to tell the Israelis the truth. The truth is, we will support you, we'll be behind you, and you will all be safe and secure. But your ultimate safety depends on peace with the Palestinians. Ultimate Israel, ultimate safety depends on that. that has to sink in the mind of the public in Israel, and that has to sink in the mind of public here. And so you need to begin it in leadership, in new leaders who are enlightened, understand what I'm just saying here, and begin to act on it. Establish the principle and develop a process that's going to lead you to the end that you want to achieve.
And the Palestinians need to accept also then they're going to have an Israeli state in their borders.
I'm sorry, come again?
I think the Palestinians need also to understand that you have an Israeli state in their borders.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been telling the Palestinian, if you want this peace, if you want a state, you must make sure that Israel does not feel threatened. You must recognize and accept Israel reality, work hand in hand with Israel on all matter of security, so that Israel will feel secure. Whether Israel is a powerful nation, powerful country, militarily speaking, it can crush the Palestinian almost any time it chooses to. So they understand the Palestinian.
No, that's clear. But it's not Israel itself. It's a geopolitical game, and the US need to understand. Then they are not helping on that situation because they are unbalancing the balance of power in a place where it's very fragile. So and I think the US now it's almost at the point to understand that story, but we need to be able to create the space where we could have this discussion, where we could have how does that work, how does that move, how does that exist I mean, it's a very complicated situation. I have a friend who is a peacemaker, and no one wants to talk to her. She's in Israel. Each time she comes to,
I taught for 2 decades conflict resolution, negotiation, international negotiation, conflict resolution, and I know one thing: if you want to reach an agreement, you have to understand exactly what your opponents want. Just give me one small example, because I think we probably were running out of time. One small example: you want the United States demanding that Hamas disarm. Hamas will disarm, but why don't you give them a seat at the table? They are, after all, representing significant number of the Palestinian population. So tell them, disarm, but if you accept Israel's right to exist, come sit down at the table to put the negotiation.
I agree.
You have to get all Palestinian elements together to sit down and accept that. That is what's not happening.
Yeah.
So when you say, Netanyahu said, well, Hamas at the table, we're not going to sit and negotiate. That's been the game he's been playing all along.
I know.
So what you need to incorporate all the players.
Yes.
And have them make one commitment. We're committed to the two-state solution. Let's now work on the detail. If it takes 10 years, it's fine. Process fail, whatever it takes. But you cannot exclude significant faction from the Palestinians because you just don't like them. That's going to happen. Netanyahu failed miserably. He wanted to eliminate Hamas. He failed miserably. He could not. Today, Hamas now running half of Gaza again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Anything else you want to add to? I mean, I got exactly. I mean, I could ask you about Iran and the situation, but I think you will complicate it more than.
Well, let's have a discussion on Iran some other time.
I'll be
delighted to do that. But if I have one advice to this president here, is that if you want peace, if you want really peace, you have to commit yourself to a two-state solution and say to the Israelis, this is what's going to take. There's a 20-point peace plan mentioned toward the end. If everything goes all right, well, this could lead eventually to Palestinian state. Or no, it has to be right at front and center.
Absolutely.
That's what you need to do, to send a clear message to the Israeli public, and that's what is important. They trust Trump. They like Trump. And for Trump tell the Israeli public, this is in your best interest, he could change somewhat the dynamics in Israel proper. And that is, I think,
not sure all the Israeli like Trump, but that's another discussion.
Well, no, I'm saying is it will have an impact.
Yeah,
it will have an impact,
absolutely.
significant impact.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you very much. We will be in touch again.
Thank you. It's my
Appreciate
pleasure.
your
My
comments
pleasure.
and enjoy the
Anytime.
session.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.